Chapter 91, A Sword of Light shines coldly over the 9 provinces. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding Ling took advantage of the situation and hit the shield with a halberd. This halberd combines the last few tricks of the 36 Tian Gang axe techniques. It can be said that the power has sunk to the extreme. It's like a sharp axe cutting through mountains, more like a heavy hammer hitting the ground. In the loud noise, several shields were smashed and flew out. The few people behind the shield screamed, and were hit by a huge force and flew out involuntarily, knocking several spearmen along the way before stopping. Ha! Ding Ling opened a gap in the shield array and immediately rushed into it. His left-hand sword skills, dawn sword skills, and sunset sword skills showed his power. The sword was bright, as if the sword god appeared in the world, and the light of the sword shone coldly across Jojo. The 100 Birds Phoenix Spear and the 36 Tian Gang axe techniques in his right hand flash from time to time, and all kinds of incredible stunts are displayed like an antelope hanging its horns, which are simply invincible, one sword, one halberd. It looks like 2 meat grinders. Wherever he passed, there was a bloody storm. No one is Ding Ling's enemy. In the blink of an eye, no less than dozens of people were killed and injured. Like a bolt of lightning, they rushed in front of the cavalry commander and struck him with a sword in his frightened and heartbroken eyes, sonorous. The sunset flashed across the sky, poof. The knight's head was easily cut off by the Shuiyue sword, which was as sharp as iron as clay. Click. Not only did the sword cut off the head, but the remaining force also chopped off the flamboyant banner with the word Dong in it. With a click, the banner broke and fell to the ground. Perhaps it was the sound of fighting outside that alerted the people in the sedan. He poked his head out to check, and saw the knight's head being chopped off and the flag broken. He was horrified and shouted. I am Dong Huang, the commander of the Imperial Guard. The nephew of Prime Minister Dong. Who are you? How dare you kill Wang Fong, the general of the Imperial Guard? Wang Fong is also a famous figure in history. Ding Ling also didn't expect that one of the cavalrymen killed would be Wang Fong. No wonder he had some courage and ability, but since the king has been killed, there is no need to keep Dong Huang. When he thought about this, he raised his halberd and stabbed Dong Huang with it. Dong Huang had been guarding against Ding Ling for a long time. Seeing this, he hurriedly shrank his head into the sedan and shouted. Come on, come on. There's an assassin. Save me. Protect the commander. The remaining sharp swordsmen, quick shooters, etc. were horrified. Although they were very afraid of Ding Ling and Zhao Yun's combat power, they still charged forward without hesitation. Ding Ling raised his eyebrows slightly when he saw it. The combat power of these soldiers was far beyond ordinary elites. Each of them was almost reaching the level of a third-rate military general. Although he is still far away from being a third-rate general. But there is no doubt about it, a group of masters who are close to third-rate generals, this power is absolutely terrifying. And Ding Ling dared to conclude that there were definitely not many such elites. If you kill these hundreds of people, you will definitely set a big trap, but now they have killed so many people. Ding Ling simply went on a killing spree. With a roar, he used the magic of the sword in one hand and the 100 Birds Phoenix Spear in the other, killing the enemy again like a god of murder. This time, these brave soldiers did not have a cavalry commander to command them. They fought separately, their abilities were greatly reduced, and they were no longer monolithic. Facing Ding Ling's horse attack, they couldn't stop Iha at all. Ding Ling's sword magic and 100 Birds Chaofeng spear skills have reached the full level. In terms of skills, they have reached the pinnacle level in this world. In terms of strength, agility, and physical fitness, all 3 have reached superclass levels. Not to mention his amazing endurance, he is also highly agility and strong, and his defense is also not low. Ordinary minor injuries will not affect his combat at all. It is precisely because of a combination of factors. Ding Ling kills enemies like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. The painted halberd and the moon sword looked like they were being swung by ghosts and gods. The extremely exquisite skills struck at their necks, foreheads and other key locations at angles and speeds that the enemy could never imagine. Puff. Puff. One by one, the soldiers' heads were pierced, and they fell to the ground and died amidst screams and roars. Zhao Yun kept hitting behind Ding Ling. His gun is fast. Being Ding Ling's rear wing can perfectly protect Ding Ling's rear, allowing Ding Ling to rush forward without any distractions. The two of them were in tandem. I rushed back and forth several times in a team of more than 200 people, and killed through the team array several times. Just for a moment, all these tough soldiers were stabbed, hacked to death, and hammered to death. Boom. Ding Ling rushed to the direction of the sedan. He jumped off the horse and used the flying over the wall technique. He lifted himself up and jumped to the front of the carriage. This carriage is extremely big. There are 10 good horses in the cart. The body is so huge that it looks like an exquisitely decorated wooden house. Ding Ling opened the curtain of the carriage. Call out. An arrow suddenly shot out, pointing directly at Ding Ling's face. The sword magic in Ding Ling's hand dances with clang. A pattern of flowers flashed before his eyes, not only chopping and smashing the sharp arrows like a cutting machine, but also with a strong energy. It rushed directly into the carriage, accompanied by a scream. A corpse fell dead in front of Ding Ling. Ding Ling lowered his head slightly and saw that he was a groom with a beard and a strong armor. The groom's face was covered with sword marks, and he stared at Ding Ling with a dead look. Ding Ling looked into the car. Dong Huang was huddled in a corner of the carriage, on an extremely luxurious bed. There were several trembling young women lying there. Ding Ling frowned slightly and said to them, "You guys go home." The women looked at Ding Ling in fear, put on their clothes, and staggered out of the carriage. Seeing this, Dong Huang also wanted to run away in fear. Ding Ling then stabbed him with a halberd. Poof! It hit Dong Huang's thigh. He was nailed to the big bed. He screamed, "Hero! Spare my life!" But he half knelt on the bed, crying, "I am willing to give you all the beauties and gold, just please don't kill me. Do you have any medicine with you?" Dong Huang was stunned, nodded frantically, endured the severe pain, and pointed to the small cabinet on the side. "It's in that cabinet." Ding Ling pulled out the painted halberd. Amid Dong Huang's shrill screams, he stabbed the small cabinet with a halberd. The cabinet door opened. There were indeed many valuables placed inside. There were gold beads, gold forks, a small gold house, 2 exquisite boxes, and a thin secret book. Ding Ling's eyes lit up slightly. He swung his sword in his left hand and directly chopped down the curtain. With a flick of the sword, the curtain was spread out in front of the small cabinet. Ding Ling repeatedly swung the halberd, and gold beads, boxes, and secret books fell on the curtain. Ding Ling then inserted the halberd into the car, stretched out his right hand to wrap the things, then tied a knot, put it on his back and tied it up. Picking up the halberd again, he glanced at Dong Huang. Dong Huang covered the bleeding hole on his left leg with his hand. He was obviously grimacing in pain, but when he saw Ding Ling looking at him, he couldn't help but smile flatteringly. Hero, look, you took all my treasures away. Can you forgive me this time?" Chapter 92 Howling Moon Shooting Max Level. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you still have the secret book from just now? Ding Ling saw it clearly. There are a few words engraved on the surface of the secret book. Xiaoye Shootout. Xiaoye's pile skill and Xiaoye's shooting, too obvious, it must be a royal secret. But what Ding Ling didn't expect was that the royal secret that he was thinking about would be encountered here. He had previously wanted to go to Dongzhu's general's residence to have a look. Now that I think about it, I'm glad I didn't go. You may not be able to find it even if you go there. This can be seen from the fact that Dong Huang always carries Xiaoye shooting with him. Secret book. Dong Huang was stunned for a moment, but when he saw Ding Ling frowning, he trembled and said quickly, "Although the Prime Minister was extremely gracious and allowed us to share the secret book of the royal secrets. But there are only 2 or 3 copies of the secret book that are truly intact. I got one of them, and the other 2, one is with the Prime Minister and the other is with Lu Bu. Where's the remnant? Most of the remaining ones were divided among other generals. I thought they were fragments, so I didn't take them." Dong Huang was trembling and frightened. "If the hero wants it, I can go get it for you." "No." Ding Ling thought for a while and asked Dong Huang to tie up the wound immediately, and then asked him to follow on horseback. "Hero, you still want to kill me?" As long as you can take us away safely, I will spare your life. Ding Ling looked at Dong Huang coldly. If anything happened to us, you wouldn't be able to survive. I promise I will drag you to hell with me before I die. Dong Huang was speechless and trembling. His horses are undoubtedly excellent horses. Ding Ling was so greedy that he cut the rope pulling the cart with his halberd, and brought in 5 horses that were obviously the best, and gave 2 to Zhao Yun. Ding Ling divided himself into 2 pieces, the other horse was given to Dong Huang. Let Dong Huang mount his horse immediately. Dong Huang trembled and got on the horse. Zhao Yun looked at him from the side. Ding Ling's horse showing skill has already reached its maximum level. Although it is only a horse reading skill in the real world and cannot compare with some advanced horse reading skills, it is still not a problem to distinguish good horses from good ones. There is no doubt that these 5 horses are the best horses, no worse than Ding Ling's mount. Moreover, horseshoes, saddles, etc. are all available, making it convenient for Ding Ling to change horses and ride when he goes south. Ta-ta. Ding Ling led the way. On the way he heard the beep again, obtained the Medal of Achievement. You overcame Dong Huang, the commander of the Imperial Army. Note, Dong Huang has been domineering and arrogant for many years. Except for Dong Zhuo, he hardly takes anyone seriously. He is not afraid of heaven and earth, he gallops around as he pleases, oppresses and kills good people. He is so cool and unrestrained in Luoyang that no one can control him. You are the only person who makes him feel scared and frightened. Because under your painted halberd, he felt the breath of death. He had never experienced this feeling even with Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu. Another medal of achievement. It seems that no player has earned an achievement medal from Dong Huang. The achievement medals of Hu Feng and Wang Feng should have been swiped away by other players. Hu Feng, especially Wang Feng, is a well-known figure in history, with extraordinary skills, reaching the level of a second-rate general. If Ding Ling hadn't been too strong and charged too quickly, he wouldn't have died so quickly. Such a general must have a medal of achievement on his body. It's a pity that Ding Ling didn't get it. The reason why Ding Ling guessed that Wang Feng and others' achievement medals were swiped away by other players. It's because this is the only one with the highest probability. Of course there are other possibilities, but Ding Ling hasn't thought about it yet. He even felt that if necessary, he could investigate and ask questions in the real online world next time he went offline. Just ask and find out clearly. Naturally everything is clear. There will be a big war soon. If you can improve it, just improve it. Ding Ling glanced around from time to time. In the houses on both sides of Jianchang Street, people opened their windows and stuck their heads out to look at themselves. Each and every one of them had an astonishing light and color in their eyes. Ding Ling understood, needless to say, these must be players. That's why they dare to investigate during the fighting. Of course, there must be local indigenous people among them, but Ding Ling didn't bother to look at these. He galloped forward. On the way, he hung the halberd on one side, took the backpack and placed it on the horse, opened it, and quickly looked through the secret book of Xiao Yugun's show. Finished reading. Close your eyes slightly, just for a moment. There is an extra book in the library. Howling Moon Shootout. Then, Xiaoye Shooting Showdown. Strength plus 0.2, agility plus 0.2, physique plus 0.1, crackling. The increase in strength and so on has allowed Ding Ling's bone meridians to be tempered, stretched and grown. Further enhance physical fitness. Ding Ling felt that his endurance and combat power had improved again. He was secretly happy, thinking. This Xiaoye spear technique is indeed a royal secret. It is no worse than the 10,000 flowers sword technique, that you must know that the 10,000 flowers sword technique is the strongest sword technique under the sword god technique. It is a truly advanced swordsmanship. The Xiaoye spear is by no means worse than the 10,000 flowers sword technique, which shows how sharp it is. Although the points added are less than that of the 10,000 flowers sword technique, the skills and attack power are no worse than the 10,000 flowers sword technique. All the mysteries and essences about Xiaoye's shooting have been transformed into the limbs and bones and become instincts. Ding Ling could clearly feel the domineering power of this shooting. As soon as this gun comes out, it seems to be able to overwhelm all things, with a desolate and domineering air of being alone facing the sky and the bright moon. Good marksmanship. Ding Ling admired, but I instinctively felt that there seemed to be a higher-level secret book for this shooting. Needless to say, the higher-level secret book must be in the hands of Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu. Ding Ling can't get it now. Zhao Yun, here you go. Ding Ling threw the secret book of Xiao Yu's shootout to Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun caught it, glanced at it casually, put it in his arms, and asked. Ding Ling. Have you completed cultivation? Ding Ling nodded. Dong Huang was a little dumbfounded on the side. He glanced at Zhao Yun and Ding Ling in confusion and thought, that, do you two think I'm a fool? How could it be possible to master this royal secret skill just by looking at it a few times? There is no master to guide and teach. When I hold the royal secrets, it is no different than reading the heavenly book. After all this time, I still can't get in. Why do you Ding Ling? Regarding the name Ding Ling, Dong Huang was not impressed at all. Ding Ling was extremely skilled in martial arts, and his swordsmanship and halberd skills made him terrified. He even thought that Ding Ling might be more powerful than Lu Bu. Such a fierce man is hiding in Luoyang, but no one reports to him. It caused him to suffer this disaster. If we can return safely this time, we must severely punish the generals patrolling Luoyang. But no matter how fierce you are, you can't learn the royal secrets in just a few glances. Do you really think I'm stupid? Dong Huang pondered. Then what do Zhao Yun and Ding Ling mean by saying this? Could it be some kind of secret code? Chapter 93 Ganoderma lucidum is refined. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The more Dong Huang thought about it, the more afraid he became. He didn't dare to think too much and could only follow him obediently. On the way, a patrolling soldier saw Dong Huang and was about to salute, but Dong Huang glared at him and backed away. Zhao Yun warned. No tricks. Dong Huang smiled flatteringly. Absolutely not. Warriors, please rest assured. Called Ding Ling the hero, called Zhao Yun the strong man, treated differently. This shows Dong Huang's snobbery and his deep fear of Ding Ling. Ding Ling got 2 exquisite boxes and a thin secret book from the cabinet. The secret book is Xiaoya's shooting. This box contains the great medicine Ganoderma lucidum. Ding Ling didn't know how old Ganoderma lucidum was, but he took a bite. After the breathing method works, whoops. Waves of heat flowed straight through the limbs and bones, making the whole body feel warm and very comfortable. The feeling of heat lasted for a long time. Ding Ling glanced at the character panel. Strength plus 0.2. Defense plus 0.2. The effect of the medicine obtained from Hujan earlier was almost the same. To be sure, it is definitely an extremely precious medicine. Such a precious medicine, Dong Huang carried it with him, which shows that he attached great importance to it. It's a pity that Ding Ling is now cheaper. Ding Ling finished the meal in several bites. Strength plus 0.8, defense plus 0.8. It also increases strength and defense by 0.8 points each. That is to say, Ganoderma lucidum is a little smaller, otherwise it would definitely add more points than ginseng, but even so, it's not much different. In terms of powerful medicinal power, it can be said that it is even better than the previous ginseng medicine. Whoops! Ding Ling took a long breath, and there were even 2 blurry white streaks spurting out from his nose. This is the external manifestation of the breathing method operating to its extreme. The 2 breathing methods show their power at the same time. This made Ding Ling's speed in absorbing and refining the medicinal power of Ganoderma increase several times. It takes very little time. This is nothing short of good news for Ding Ling. There is no need to stop and wait for the Ganoderma lucidum to be digested before leaving. He finished eating this Ganoderma lucidum, opening another box. There was also a Ganoderma lucidum inside. Click, click, click. Eat it in a few bites. The medicinal power surges through the organs. The 2 major breathing methods operate rapidly, absorbing and refining the medicinal power rapidly, turn the power of the medicine into a sledgehammer and hit the skin, muscles, bones, etc. Ding Ling's meridians were broadened, the membrane becomes tougher, bones are getting stronger. Increased defense and surge in strength, strength plus 0.9, defense plus 0.9. This Ganoderma directly adds 0.9 attribute points to strength and defense. Ding Ling glanced at the character panel. Strength. Root bone 1 point for ordinary people, Wisdom 2, Strength 22.5 plus 0.2 plus 0.2 plus 0.8 plus 0.9 equals 24.6, Agility 21.7 plus 0.2, 21.9, Constitution 21.2 plus 0.1, 21.3, Defense 16 plus 0.2 plus 0.8 plus 0.9, 17.9, Charm 4, Strength and Defense increased the fastest. His strength has now skyrocketed to more than 2,400 kilograms, and his every move has surging and terrifying power. A second-rate general cannot block Ding Ling's blow at all, even the best can't stop a few moves. Only those who are truly top-notch are worthy of being Ding Ling's opponent. Defense got 17.9, it can be said that Ding Ling is now carrying several layers of defensive armor, and ordinary soldiers cannot break through his defense. I am afraid that only if the sharp arrow penetrates the vital part and the blade slashes on the neck, head, etc., can he be seriously injured. In other places, he would probably just carry it and get through. This feeling is really intoxicating. Ding Ling was in high spirits. The surge in strength brings a great sense of security. My heart, which was a little empty at first, felt a lot more full and confident at this moment. Dong Huang saw the scenes of Ding Ling chewing Ganoderma lucidum and becoming so powerful that his scalp was numb with shock and he couldn't help himself. He couldn't imagine how Ding Ling managed to refine Ganoderma lucidum for his own use, but then he thought of Ding Ling's breathing method of entering the realm of transformation, and he was slightly relieved, but more still frightened. How could such a defiant person be bumped into by me? Really unlucky. Tada! Ding Ling through the empty box, retie the package and tie it to the side of the horse. Cheer up, with a painted halberd in one hand and a moon sword in the other, the horse speeds up. Dong Huang is by his side. The ordinary patrol team did not dare to attack Ding Ling, and they were scolded by Dong Huang and ran away. I have to say, taking Dong Huang on the road was indeed a wise decision, if not, fighting patrols along the way. It will definitely waste a lot of time. Obtained the Medal of Achievement. You shocked Lu Bu's army. Note, a patrol team from the Lu Bu army publicized the fact that you killed the Flying Bear army and kidnapped Dong Huang. Some of the generals on Lu Bu's side personally led their teams to the scene to find out what was going on, and asked the neighbors and passers-by, after finding out the truth, what you did shocked them. For the first time, they truly realized that the flying General Lu Bu was not truly invincible. Perhaps Lu Bu had already found an opponent. You must be careful, because when they meet you, they will never fight you one-on-one, and will most likely fight you in a group, because they know that a strong man like Lu Bu can never be defeated by one person. While on the road, a prompt sound suddenly passed by his ears. Ding Ling was slightly stunned, and then relieved. He drove Dong Huang by his side all the way, galloping through the long streets. It is almost reaching the south gate. Time has passed for half an hour. At this time, it is understandable that some patrols report the situation and are noticed and discovered by their superiors. However, did I kill the Feixiong army before? Feixiong army, Dongzhu's private elite troops in the late Eastern Han dynasty. It is the absolute elite of the Xiliang army, led by Dongzhu's trusted General Li Ju and others. This is the information Ding Ling knows, but now it seems that the leader of the Feixiong army has most likely been replaced by Dong Huang. After all, they are his own people. Dongzhu's nepotism is unreasonable. No wonder his fighting power is so amazing. As Ding Ling rode on, he casually asked Dong Huang a few questions. He learned that the Feixiong army had only 3,000 people in total. Usually, more than 2,000 people were stationed in the palace to protect Dongzhu's safety. The remaining hundreds of people were usually led by Dong Huang. On this trip, Dong Huang brought more than 200, nearly 300 people, and also brought Wang Fang, a cavalry general who led a 1,000-man team of the Feixiong army. As a result, they were all killed. Thinking of this, Dong Huang couldn't help but feel palpitations. He answered whatever Ding Ling asked, and behaved very sincerely and honestly. Of course, Ding Ling knew that this was just an appearance, and he didn't be polite to Dong Huang. After riding all the way to the south gate, he asked him to knock on the door. Dong Huang wanted to refuse, but he knew, if he refused, he would definitely be the first person to die. His good days had just begun, and he didn't want to die. Therefore, even though Dong Huang hated Ding Ling to death, he had to suppress his fear and stepped forward to shout at the guard at the south gate. Chapter 94, How Meng, one of the 8 warriors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You are blind. Can't you see who I am? Open the gate quickly. Sir, what are you doing? That the south gate guard was a man who was 8 feet tall and had a sturdy appearance. In terms of appearance, he was very good, but at this moment, facing Dong Huang's scolding, he instantly gave people the feeling of being a head shorter. He said timidly. I am stationed here under the order of Wen Ho. Without his order, I cannot open the gate. How dare you? Dong Huang was furious. I am the commander of the Imperial Guards and the nephew of Prime Minister Dong. What kind of person is Lu Fengxian? A flatterer and a bootlicker. My uncle took him in as his adopted son because he thought highly of him. It doesn't mean that he can have a higher status than my nephew. You dare to refuse my order now. Believe it or not, I will have someone chop off your head and kick it like a ball. Dong Huang has always been domineering. Unreasonable is arrogant, reasonable is even more impossible to forgive. He was already trembling and shivering under the threat of Ding Ling. At this moment, the guard's words provoked him, and he was immediately furious. If his foot was not injured and he had no weapons in his hands, he would definitely attack the guard to vent his anger. I dare not. The guard was still humble, but he insisted on not opening the door. Dong Huang was so angry that he was furious. Ding Ling saw that Dong Huang had tried his best, so he could only let him step aside. He came all the way south, he galloped through countless long streets and small roads. The sound of war drums was getting louder and louder. It was obvious, the matter between him and Zhao Yun must have spread throughout Luoyang. Now a large army has begun to be dispatched to encircle him. If he didn't open the south gate quickly, he would be blocked here and attacked from both sides. Even if he had the power to reach the sky, he would die here. This was not what he wanted. Dong Huang led the team all the way, saving Ding Ling too much time. Now he barely had some time to open the south gate. Ding Ling rode his horse to a place not far in front of the guard, shook the halberd in his hand, and shouted. Are you going to open the door or not? Who are you? The guard looked servile in front of Dong Huang, but when he saw Ding Ling, a burst of heroic spirit burst out. He looked at Ding Ling with disdain, swung the spear in his hand, and said coldly. With me, How Meng, here, no one can come. Unless there is an order from Wen Ho and Prime Minister Dong. How Meng, one of the 8 generals under Lu Bu. Ding Ling raised his eyebrows and sighed. I'll warn you for the last time. You'd better listen to the words of the minister and open the door, otherwise you will bear the consequences. What? How Meng's heart tightened and he took a step back. Swish. The soldiers around him immediately rushed forward, holding long spears to confront Ding Ling, and protecting How Meng behind him. In this case, How Meng seemed to be relieved and said loudly. I'll say it for the last time. If you go back and ask for the order of Wen Ho and the Prime Minister, I will open the door naturally. Otherwise, if you force your way in, don't blame me, How Meng, for being merciless. Ah. Ding Ling sighed. Give Zhao Yun a look. Zhao Yun understood, held the long spear tightly, and was ready to respond at any time. In this case, the only way is to use the killer. Ding Ling suddenly raised the painted halberd in his hand and chopped and stabbed at the soldiers in front. A painted halberd, it has melted the essence of many weapons such as axe, stick, knife, spear, halberd and so on. Once used, it is like the universe is reversed, and the fantasy world descends into the mortal world, but seeing the sky full of spear flowers flashing through the void, a series of fierce and harsh clanging sounds passed by the ears. When looking again, more than a dozen soldiers covered their throats, looking at Ding Ling in astonishment and shock, mumbling in their mouths as if they wanted to say something, but all they spit out was blood. What kind of spear is this? How Meng is a second-rate peak master, although his strength is still a long way from the first-rate, but the use of spear skills can be said to have reached a very high level. So Ding Ling used the painted halberd to use the 100 birds facing the phoenix spear to kill the enemy. He saw at a glance that it was not the halberd method just now, but the spear method. Clang! Clang clang clang! What responded to him was faster and more spear flowers. Even from time to time, there were various hooks and chops, as if the peerless axe technique was being summoned and was hit by Ding Ling. It was obviously a painted halberd. At this moment, it had the flavor of 18 kinds of weapons. The soldiers were overwhelmed and completely unable to resist. Many people could not stop for a round. They were stabbed and chopped to death by the painted halberd just after they were killed. Killed more than a dozen people in an instant. Ding Ling's killing of enemies became more and more artistic and more desolate. One hand was a sword magic, the other hand was a gun technique, axe technique, etc., which kept alternating. On one side, from time to time, there were pictures of the setting sun and blooming flowers. On the other side, there were pictures of 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix and a picture of the Tiangang giant axe. Various patterns, difficult to distinguish and see with the naked eye. Only some phantoms can be seen faintly. However, before they can see clearly, the next moment, the soldiers fell in a pool of blood, one person, a halberd, and a sword, but the blood flowed like a river at the gate of the South City. Hundreds of people were almost killed by him alone. He killed them all to the end. Meng couldn't help but tremble with fear and wanted to run. He wanted to climb up the city wall, seen by Ding Ling. He swung his halberd and slashed the last soldier blocking his way. Using his throwing skill, he threw the halberd directly towards Meng. Meng heard the sound of breaking through the air and instinctively dodged to the side. Crack! The halberd was inserted straight into the city wall for more than 3 inches. Meng was frightened and broke into a cold sweat. He kicked the ground and climbed up the stairs to the city wall as fast as a bird. Seeing this, Ding Ling jumped up from his horse and used his flying skills. He kicked the horses back and flew through the void for more than 10 meters like a gust of wind. He landed on the stairs, quickly climbed up the city wall, and killed Meng. Meng fled in a panic, but his speed was not as fast as Ding Ling. Seeing that he was about to be caught up, he immediately shouted, "I can open the city gate for you. You don't have to open it. That I have offended him so much, there is no reason to let him go." If the opponent was just using a delaying tactic to paralyze Ding Ling, wouldn't that be even more troublesome? Thinking of this, Ding Ling took a few steps to catch up with Meng, and stabbed Meng with the new moon sword in his hand, Dawn sword technique. 10,000 sword flowers bloomed in the air, forming a picture of a flourishing flower scene. They fell on Meng's head. Meng roared. Spear tactics. Boom! The energy burst out, and a sharp energy rushed out of his body. He tightly grasped the spear in his hand, shaking out a bunch of gun flowers, trying to rely on the advantage of the spear to stab Ding Ling to death first. Clang clang clang. The sword and the spear fought for only 1 round. Puff. A sword flower passed Meng's arm. Puff. A crisp sound. Meng's hand holding the gun was cut off. Thanks to the breeze accompanies me to sleep, for the reward of 100 starting coins. Thanks to all the book friends who support this book. Thank you. Chapter 95, Shocking the Capital. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Blood flowed profusely, the earth is scarlet in patches. Ah! Meng screamed, looking defeated, and staggered back. He was very frightened. Don't kill me. If you kill me, Marquis Wen won't let you go. It sounds like if I let you go, Marquis Wen of the Jin family will not kill me. Ding Ling sneered and waved the moon sword forward. Sunset swordsmanship. The setting sun flashes across the sky, traced along Meng's neck. Puff. A big head was cut off and fell to the ground with a plop. It rolled on the ground and rolled to Ding Ling's feet. A pair of big eyes stared at Ding Ling, as if he would not close his eyes until death, fear, annoyance, regret, and unwillingness remained on his face. Ding Ling took one look and flew down the city wall. Ding Ling! Zhao Yun is calling him. Ding Ling looked at the sound. It turned out that Zhao Yun had taken the opportunity to open the city gate. Hurry up. I see a large force coming from the north. Ding Ling nodded, pulled out Fang Tian's painted halberd from the city wall, jumped a few times, and flew onto his horse. He glanced at Dong Huang. Why are you standing still? Speed! Dong Huang was stunned. This time he finally saw clearly how Ding Ling killed the enemy. Chopping melons and vegetables is so easy. How terrible. Is this still a human being? Walk. Ding Ling glared at Dong Huang and raised the moon sword in his hand slightly. Dong Huang was so frightened that he instinctively rode out of the south gate. Ding Ling followed him out of the south gate. Wait until all the horses have left the city. Ding Ling looked behind him. It is still a simple, heavy and vicissitudes of life in the royal capital. It's still that majestic, grand and majestic city wall, but at this moment, Ding Ling felt completely different. Its body seemed to be filled with the smell of decay, blood, ruin, ugliness, and depravity. This was brought by Dong Zhuo's army. Luoyang. Ding Ling took a deep look at the capital, then rode away without looking back. If possible, he hoped that this royal city would not be destroyed. After all, the grandeur and vicissitudes of this royal capital have been engraved in our bones, so it would be a pity to destroy it like this. After leaving the royal capital, Ding Ling and the other two entered a forest to rest temporarily. Ding Ling was already hungry. The previous promotions left him in urgent need of energy replenishment. He rode his horse in circles in the forest, killed a few wild boars, and came back to make barbecue. Fireworks rushed out of the forest and filled the air in all directions. Will it attract enemies? Zhao Yun took a closer look, a little worried. It's impossible not to eat, right? Eat and drink enough before you go on your way. Ding Ling said. Besides, there are beacon towers in various places, and there are 800 miles of urgent soldiers who will report the situation to various places at any time. In Luoyang, we caught the other side by surprise. Meng didn't seem to know what happened, otherwise we would never have been able to escape from the city so smoothly. This time I was able to get out of the city smoothly. In addition to Dong Huang's help, it was also Ding Ling and his team who were fast, strong, and courageous enough. Anyone who is too hesitant may be trapped in Luoyang city and unable to get out. 2. Zhao Yun was relieved, sat down and began to barbecue. After a while, the two of them had enough to eat and drink. Dong Huang was as hungry as a drum. Ding Ling gave him a pig fart valley. He was disgusted and didn't eat it, but I was so hungry that I could only eat it with my mouth closed, but I found it was unexpectedly delicious. Ding Ling glanced at Dong Huang. He was wondering if he should just kill him here. It was obviously unwise to bring such a sluggish person. Dong Huang seemed to understand. After swallowing the meat with difficulty, he immediately said, "Hero, please rest assured that I am definitely useful in this silly territory. With me here, ordinary generals would not dare to take action. I will do my best to protect you from silly territory. I just hope that after you go out, you can spare my life. If it's true as you said, it's not impossible to spare your life." Ding Ling rarely relaxed his tone. Dong Huang was overjoyed and said hurriedly, "Hero, you will see what I do next. I guarantee that you will have a smooth journey and no one will dare to mess around." "I hope so." Ding Ling nodded. Almost at the same time, get the achievement medal, Megatron Capital. Note, your deeds have spread throughout Luoyang, even to the ears of Dong Zhuo. Your martial arts and skills will shock all the officials. There is no doubt about it, your reputation as the god of war begins to rise at this moment. Ding Ling heard this. He couldn't help but glance at the character panel. 3. You must let your name as God of War resound throughout the entire plain world. 3% per 100%. Previously it was 2%, now it jumps forward a small space. Ding Ling was thoughtful and pondered. It seems that during the battle in Luoyang, many people recognize that I have the skills, martial arts, and abilities of a god of war. Is that why my reputation as god of war will increase? There is only one possibility. Only when someone is recognized as having peerless martial arts skills can one's reputation rise. This was the case when the Montenegrin army was defeated. The same is true now. The reason why it only jumped 1%, it probably has something to do with the fact that most of the defeated people were second-rate military generals. If he could defeat 70% to 80% of the remaining generals in Luoyang like he defeated most of the generals of the Black Mountain Army, his reputation as the god of war would surely soar. Thinking of this, Ding Ling was refreshed, but he thought of a way. if there really were princes fighting against Dongzhuo, I challenged all the fierce generals of Dongzhuo or the alliance in front of the coalition army, then my reputation as the god of war would surely soar, and this task might be completed ahead of schedule. But it would definitely be difficult to implement this. Ding Ling didn't want to join Chao Mengde and others rashly at the moment. He had to choose a suitable opportunity. If Chao Mengde and others didn't suit his appetite, then there was no need for him to join them. As for the task progress bar, as long as he seized the opportunity and was strong enough, he could easily complete it. So, in the final analysis, it is still the most important thing to improve yourself. Ding Ling made a decision in his heart. He would go to Yangzhou to find Yu Ji and Zhua Ci to practice the internal breathing method, strive to achieve the unity of inside and outside. After all, the two external breathing methods are combined, the power has increased many times. The amplification effect on the body is very obvious. What if the inside and outside are combined? Ding Ling doesn't know the effect, but since Wang Yu said with certainty that he will be invincible in the world, then it seems to be no different. Thinking of this, Ding Ling's blood boiled, the best in the world. Who doesn't want to get such a title? False reputation doesn't matter, what Ding Ling cares about is the real powerful strength of the best in the world. I wonder where the hero is going. Of course, he is going south. If you want to go south, there are several ways to go. Dong Huang also guessed that Ding Ling was going south, otherwise how could he go through the south gate? He had a plan in mind, and at this moment, under the gaze of Ding Ling and Zhao Yun, he said quickly. Chapter 96, Remarks on the Launch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Available on July 8, greater than or equal to 50 chapters on the first day, greater than or equal to 30 chapters on the second day, greater than or equal to 20 chapters on the third day, greater than or equal to 3 chapters per day thereafter. The better the results, the more updates. Begging for the first order. Begging for the full order. Begging for support. Thank you so much. I wish all the book friends who support this book, good health and happiness to all the family members. The male book friends are getting more and more handsome, and the female book friends are getting more and more beautiful. Chapter 97 Southbound Route, 1/50th. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97 Southbound Route, 150. You can go east to Yanchur City and Gong County, pass Hulao Pass, go around Xinjiang City and go south. Dong Huang gestured with his fingers. The second route is to go through Yik City, go south to Xinchen, Luhan City and other places, and then reach Song County. After crossing 2 rivers and a mountain range, you can enter Jingzhou. The third route is to go through Yiyang City, Luoning City, Lushur City, and go around Wuguan to reach Jingzhou. The fourth route is to go west, pass Xian City, Hongnong City, and other places, go to Chang'an and then go around to Jingzhou. Of course, you can also go straight into Liangzhou, go around Yizhou, and then enter Jingzhou or Jiaozhou. Dong Huang talked freely, he was actually very familiar with the geographical situation. Ding Ling couldn't help but look at him sideways, thinking, it seems that although Dong Huang is a fool, he also has his own advantages. If he is really a hopeless person, how powerful is Dong Zhuo? How could he hand over his imperial guards to a useless commander? After all, it concerns his personal safety. And now it seems that Dong Huang does have his strengths. Come to think of it, how many useless people can leave their names in history? Especially Dong Huang, who grew up under the eyes of a group of fierce generals. How could he be a useless person? After all, people who are close to vermilion are red, and people who are close to ink are black. People who are trained in the harsh environment of the Xiliang border are definitely more fierce than bandits. I don't know which way the hero is going to take, Dong Huang said, looking at Ding Ling anxiously. Ding Ling pondered, or decided to take the second route. Although this route is more difficult to take, it is the closest, and there are rivers and mountains blocking it, as long as the speed is fast enough. Dong Zhuo's troops can't encircle and hunt him down. In the vast mountains, even if Dong Zhuo is against the sky, it is impossible to find 2 people. Going east, Hulao Pass is heavily guarded. If Dong Huang's words don't work, and he falls into the same dilemma as the south gate before, wouldn't he be doomed? You know, the south gate can still kill the opponent by surprise, but Hulao Pass can never do that, because there is a certain probability that players will actively report Ding Ling's intelligence in order to grab credit. Maybe the desk of the Hulao Pass guard is now full of relevant information about Ding Ling. Ding Ling has never hesitated to speculate on the player's attitude towards him with the worst malice, because people are good and bad. Some players are really bad and beyond the bottom line, which is undeniable. Of course, more players are normal people with correct values and moral bottom line. Ding Ling does not need to be too wary of players, because he is also a player, and he knows that most people are ordinary people. But because he is a player, he also knows that there are indeed very bad people among the players. He also needs to guard against players, and guard against these villains and evil people. Some players are inexplicably evil, just like Dong Zhuo, Dong Huang and others, who oppress and suppress the common people for no reason. For such players, Ding Ling's approach is to not provoke me, but if I provoke him, I will definitely kill him. In the past, Ding Ling was just an ordinary person who could only endure being oppressed, but now he doesn't need to endure it at all. There are plugins, why should I endure it? Let's go the second way. Ding Ling was very decisive. He flew on the horse, carrying the new moon sword, holding the painted halberd in his right hand, and tightening the reins with his left hand. The horse immediately turned south. He sat on the horse and looked at Zhao Yun and Dong Huang. It's time to go. I heard the movement. He had sharp ears and eyes, and he had indeed heard the sound of the large army approaching. He knew that it might be caused by the delay in eating, but not eating is not okay, because he has been promoted several times. The consumption is a bit large. If he doesn't eat, he will be hungry for too long. When he is eager to hurry on the road, and then encounters the enemy, he will most likely be trapped by the opponent because of exhaustion, but he was well fed, full of energy, strong and endurance, so he didn't need to worry about these things. Okay. Zhao Yun nodded and signaled Dong Huang to lead the way. Dong Huang looked distressed, but he could only gallop ahead. Ding Ling was the last. He didn't choose the other two routes, either because they were too far or because there were too many enemies. It was definitely not advisable to go through Chang'an. Liangzhou was Dong Zhuo's base camp. Wouldn't Ding Ling be walking into a trap? As for going through Wuguan, the same reason, it was heavily guarded, so it was not advisable. The three of them changed horses. The speed was not slow at all. The horses that were led in Luoyang before were effective at this time. When the strong horses were tired, they could change horses and continue to speed up. The speed was definitely fast, but it seemed that the enemy's horses were not slow either. The rumbling sound of iron hooves kept echoing and stirring in his ears. Ding Ling looked back. You can clearly see the dust and smoke that are rolling up all over the sky. They are all cavalry. There are probably no less than 1,000 people. The exact number is unknown. We can't go on like this. Dong Huang took the initiative to speak. If we reach Yeek City and the city guards don't open the gate, we will most likely be surrounded outside the city. It will be dangerous then. He will consider Ding Ling. Or rather, consider his own life. Ding Ling knew this very well, nodded, and said. Is there an uphill slope ahead that is more suitable for cavalry charge? Yes. Dong Huang hurriedly said. Go 6 or 7 miles further, there will be a dirt slope. Let's go there. Ding Ling, are you going to fight them? Zhao Yun glanced sideways. It's us. Ding Ling raised his eyebrows. Yes. Zhao Yun nodded with satisfaction, showing no fear at all. No matter how many people and horses the other side has, as long as we cooperate sincerely, we don't have to be afraid. Kick, tap, tap. The 7 horses galloped for 6 or 7 miles, and Ding Ling saw a dirt slope as expected. He rode the horse up the dirt slope and stood at the top of the slope. If a strong horse is wearing armor, the impact will definitely be very strong if it attacks from top to bottom. Ding Ling then roughly concentrated the armor on the other horses on the 2 horses. Some armors don't fit. Ding Ling directly tied them up with ropes. Ding Ling had the rope a long time ago, and he actually used it at this moment. After doing all this, a group of cavalrymen in the distance had already rushed over. Ding Ling jumped on the horse, took out the 5 stone bow, bent the bow and arrowed, aiming at a brave general in the distance. When the general led his team to a distance of more than 100 meters from Ding Ling let go of the bowstring. Bang! A light sound, the arrow cut through the sky like thunder. It shot towards the general's head, clang. The general held a spear in his hand, his eyes sparkling. Seeing that Ding Ling dared to shoot an arrow from such a distance, he couldn't help but smile contemptuously and shook the spear in his hand. The breathing method was running, and the gun execution was triggered. A burst of energy with a sense of extreme intensity that seemed to be able to destroy the soul and take away the spirit stabbed at the arrow. A sound, bang. The spear head in the general's hand tilted, and the spear was almost out of his hand. How is it possible? He was shocked. What a great strength. His hands trembled slightly. If he had been more careless and didn't trigger the gun execution, wouldn't he have been seriously injured just now? Chapter 99 Shooting and Killing the Wolf Cavalry Officer, 3/50. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99 Shooting the Wolf Cavalry General, 350. Ding Ling temporarily gave up his plan to charge and kill the enemy on the slope. He let the heavily armored horse stay on the slope. He changed his horse to a light and well-equipped horse, rode down the slope, approached the cavalry formation, continued to bend his bow and arrow, and shot the enemy's junior general. The armor of the junior generals is too obvious. Ding Ling has a sharp ear and amazing eyesight, so he can naturally tell the difference at a glance. Whoosh! The sound of piercing the air continued, as if the god of death was urging the soul. The junior generals were all frightened. They were shocked, angry and frightened. They also understood Ding Ling's plan. A junior general immediately went to the watch and shouted. "Two generals, if we don't launch an attack, we will lose our hearts and have no choice but to retreat. These are just two little thieves. Why does the general retreat again and not dare to attack and kill them?" That there were also military commanders shouting and asking questions. Normally they wouldn't dare to be so bold, but with the god of death always staring at him, he couldn't hold back any longer. In fear and anxiety, he broke out. "We can kill them all at once. Why are we joking about the lives of our brothers and ignoring them?" Snort. Wei Su snorted angrily. "My Lord Attendant is here, who dares to touch the killer?" Lord Attendant, that the army commander was surprised and uncertain. The person next to Ding Ling is the Lord Attendant. "What do you think?" Song Xian looked at Jun Sima coldly. "Otherwise, do you think we will be so stupid?" That the army Sima was filled with resentment and was about to say a few more words. Phew. A sharp arrow was like a bolt that penetrated the void. It hit Sima's head with an irresistible force and even cracked his helmet. The arrow collided violently with the helmet. Instantly shattered and broken, but the arrow body was still driven by the huge force and hit the crack in the helmet, crackling. Almost instantly, the arrow body was torn into several small pieces of wood along the cracked hole by the sharp edge of the crack. The pieces of wood collapsed and spread out a lot, but more of them were caused by inertia. The force hit Jun Sima's skull. It felt like wooden needles were piercing into the temples and other key locations. The army commander screamed and fell to the ground from his horse. His head and face were covered with blood. His eyes were full of desire for life, as well as strong unwillingness and resentment. He stretched out his hands towards Wei Su and Song Xian, struggling said. "General, General." The words have not yet fallen. He had breathed his last, and his eyes gradually lost their luster. Wei Su and Song Xian were frightened and furious. For a moment, they really wanted to ignore it and directly order Ding Ling and his party to be shot to death. But reason pulled them back from the edge of madness. They thought it was not worth betting their future on this incident. Phew. The sound of breaking through the air continued. From time to time, junior generals were seen being dismissed. In particular, Ding Ling, Zhao Yun, and Dong Huang rode their horses to pursue the wolf cavalry, getting closer and closer, and the power of their arrows became more and more powerful. Come last, often an arrow is shot out and boom. He actually shot the person flying off the horse. The intensity is so great that it is shocking. Ordinary junior generals simply cannot bear it and forcefully use their weapons to block it. they will only end up being seriously injured and die. I should have known we were sending heavy cavalry. Wei Su regretted it. The wolf cavalry is a light cavalry, high attack, high agility, and fast speed. But the disadvantage is that the defense is insufficient. In order to pursue Ding Ling and Zhao Yun, it is most suitable to send wolf cavalry with fast speed and high attack power. This was an order given by Lu Bu himself. Wei Su and Song Xian also felt that it was very reasonable. They even believed that if there were unparalleled wolf cavalry in the world to charge and kill the enemy, they must be invincible. It would not be a problem to eradicate two powerful generals. It was not like they had never killed peerless generals on the frontier. But after they really got in touch, they realized how difficult Ding Ling was. Compared to Zhao Yun, Ding Ling's archery skills are extremely amazing. And the strength is so great that it is simply frightening. The power of an arrow is probably less than 1,000 kilograms. Except for the second-rate peak and first-rate warriors, second-rate ordinary generals can't say they can withstand such an arrow. Whoever carries it hard will most likely die. In addition, the wolf cavalry wears leather armor and has low defense. Facing such an arrow, it seems that they can only passively wait for death. Don't bully others too much. Wei Su saw that almost all the village commanders, army commanders and others were dead. Finally unable to bear it any longer, he rode out of the formation, pointed his gun at Ding Ling, and shouted loudly. Ding Ling, I am Wei Su, the general under Marquis 1. I'm warning you now. Don't offend me. Otherwise you'll be responsible for the consequences. Wei Su. Ding Ling raised his eyebrows and put down the 5-stone bow he held high, thinking, the visitor turned out to be Wei Su, one of the 8 great generals, so who is the other one? Seeing Ding Ling looking at him, Song Xian stepped out to introduce himself. Ding Ling understood, another 8-strong player, that said. Are Lu Bu's elite cavalry, the wolf cavalry, behind? We wolf cavalry are the elites of the frontier battles, and Wen Ho is even known as a flying general, a deterrent. If you don't want to be regarded as an enemy by Wen Ho, you'd better stop. Song Xian shouted. Our Bingzhou army has been galloping on the battlefield for many years. We are invincible in every battle. Although you and Zhao Yun are very strong, how dare you and Zhao Yun be the vanguard of our tens of thousands of Bingzhou army? If you are sensible, just follow us back to Luoyang and seek leniency, and we will definitely speak for you. Hearing Song Xian say this, Ding Ling smiled coldly. How dare you threaten him? He immediately raised the 5-stone bow that had been put down, tightened the bow, put on the sharp arrow, and released the string. Bang! An arrow shot at Song Xian. Song Xian was shocked and wanted to avoid it, but the arrow was too fast, and the distance between the two sides was only 50 or 60 meters at the moment, so it was impossible to avoid the whole body. Even if he avoided the vital part of the head. But there was a high probability that he would be shot in the arm. Song Xian naturally didn't want to be injured, so he instinctively stimulated the breathing method, operated the knife formula, and chopped the arrow heavily with a knife, mountain-breaking knife method. Boom! A knife chopped it open, as if it could tear the world apart, and the peerless edge burst out from it, hitting the arrow like lightning and light. A violent explosion sounded in the roar, the arrow shattered and turned into debris that collapsed in all directions. Song Xian's body shook, and he was unstable and almost fell off his horse. He was horrified, but he suppressed his fear and pretended to be calm as he looked at Ding Ling. Do you really want to fight to the death with us? His hands were trembling slightly. The previous attack, he used all his strength. But he could only just block the force of the arrow. The opponent was too strong, and the arrow's attack power was too high. Song Xian's heart was surging with fear, and he couldn't stay calm. For the first time, he really realized how sharp and fierce Ding Ling was. Before, he just watched the scene and felt that Ding Ling was extraordinary, but he didn't have personal contact and didn't feel deeply. Now, after testing, Song Xian realized the opponent's strength, and he couldn't help but be frightened, and dared not move forward again. He drove his horse and retreated step by step back to the ranks of the wolf cavalry. He had no intention of fighting Ding Ling alone. Chapter 100, Guard General Yang Ding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Therefore, Song Xian was far away from Ding Ling at the beginning, but at such a long distance, Ding Ling still had the ability to threaten his life. This shocked, suffocated and scared him, and he couldn't help but retreat. Wei Su understood, swallowed hard, and said quickly. Wait a minute. Ding Ling, you have to know that we dare not kill you only because of the safety of the minister. If we are really forced, we will not care about these things. You have to think clearly. Dong Huang's heart tightened, and his face became tense. He couldn't help but look at Ding Ling, fearing that Ding Ling would choose to give up on him. Ding Ling raised his eyebrows slightly and put away the bow again. Dong Huang breathed a sigh of relief, but he didn't know, after weighing the pros and cons, Ding Ling felt that temporarily keeping Dong Huang alive would be more conducive to his escape from Silly. If Dong Huang died, Ding Ling's difficulty in going south would increase exponentially, and he would also face the arrows of Lu Bu and Dong Zhua's cavalry. Of course, Ding Ling's sword magic, 100 birds paying homage to the Phoenix Spear, and Howling Moon Spear execution have all reached the level of instinct, and he is not afraid of ordinary random arrows. He is just worried that the opponent will bite him tightly. In this way, he will have no time to eat and will be exhausted sooner or later. At that time, if he is surrounded and killed by the opponent, he may have to go offline. But if he goes offline, Zhao Yun will be dead. Even if he goes online again, Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu's army, which are supported by players, will still accurately kill him, so this is not advisable. Ding Ling's mind turned, and he immediately said. If you want me not to shoot arrows, you must stay away from the three of us at least 10 miles away, 10 miles away. It is enough for Ding Ling to make some preparations. He hopes that the wolf cavalry will return to Luoyang and not encircle him, but he knows that this is unrealistic, so he simply didn't say it. Okay. Wei Su agreed without thinking. We will withdraw now. Don't shoot Dong Huang, and he couldn't compare with Ding Ling in archery skills. He dared not to fight alone. And he had to face Ding Ling's cold arrows all the time. Wei Su and Song Xian were extremely depressed and could only choose to retreat temporarily. They needed to wait for Lu Bu's order. As long as Lu Bu ordered not to care about Dong Huang's life, they would definitely not care. Kick, tap, tap. Song Xian, Wei Su and their group came in a fierce manner and fled in a mess. With the smoke and dust rising to the sky, they gradually disappeared in the distance. Ding Ling's tense heartstrings relaxed a little. He and Zhao Yun were actually ready to fight desperately, but now that they didn't have to fight, it couldn't be better. It can save physical strength and endurance. Achievement Medal, you shocked the Wolf Cavalry Corps. Note, since the birth of the Wolf Cavalry, it has never been afraid of anyone or any team. You are the only one who made them suffer a big loss and had to retreat in frustration. This made them extremely angry. Unwilling. Therefore, although you shocked them, but they will most likely retaliate. The prompt sound passed by his ears. Ding Ling was slightly stunned, and then relieved. It is normal to retaliate. However, the Wolf Cavalry has achievement medals on their bodies. It seems that no player has brushed similar medals on them. As for Wei Su and Song Xian, no. It seems that they were brushed away by other players like Meng and others. Ding Ling thought for a while and said, I originally planned to find some celebrities to brush achievement medals in the future. Now it seems that there is no need for this. It is obvious, most of the achievement medals of these celebrities will definitely be brushed away by other players. Although players do not have plugins like Ding Ling, they have various means. Ding Ling has never and will not underestimate them. The only thing he can do is to cheat crazily and leave the players far behind so that they can't see his back. In this way, he doesn't need to be afraid of the players' conspiracies and tricks at all. Because all conspiracies and calculations are paper tigers in front of absolute strength. So, improving strength is the best strategy. Ding Ling's route was still to go south to Yangzhou to learn the internal training breathing method. He was also very curious whether he would be truly invincible after learning the internal training breathing method. Besides Yu Ji and Zhua Ci, who else in the Three Kingdoms world knows the internal training breathing method? Ding Ling had of course asked Wang Yu about this, but Wang Yu didn't know either. As a sword god who roamed the 9 states, Wang Yu, who was as famous as Tong Yuan, didn't know, so he must really not know. However, Ding Ling knew some things about the book Romance of the Three Kingdoms. For example, in addition to Yu Ji and Zhua Ci, there were actually records of 3 peerless masters, Li Yi, Master Zixu, and Nanhua Lao Xian. Nanhua Lao Xian was the immortal who gave Taiping Yao Shu to Zhang Ju. Of course, what was the specific situation? All this still needs to be verified by Ding Ling, but he remembered that there was a record in the book that Master Zixu and Li Yi seemed to be in Izhou. I just don't know if these 2 people are still in Izhou now with the influx of players. Ding Ling thought that if this trip to Yangzhou was fruitless, he might go to Izhou. Tap, tap, tap. Ding Ling and the other 2 rode their horses to the first ancient city. That was their destination, Yeek City. Ding Ling was a very decisive person. After seeing Wei Su and the others leave, he did not chase them to see if they would really stay 10 miles away from him. Because he knew it was unrealistic. Since Wei Su and Song Xian had decided to kill him, how could they be so obedient? They would definitely follow him from a distance, looking for a good opportunity to surround and kill him. Ding Ling knew what was going on, but he still rode his horse at full speed. As long as he was fast enough, if he escaped into the vast mountains first, no matter how powerful the wolf cavalry was, it would be useless. Open the door. Dong Huang had long been tamed by Ding Ling, and he stepped forward and shouted obediently. I am the nephew of Prime Minister Dong, the commander of the current Imperial Guards, and the dignified minister. Are you blind? You can't recognize me. The general guarding the city seemed to know Dong Huang. Hearing his voice, he looked at Dong Huang carefully and was shocked. Minister, how did you come here from Luoyang? It's none of your business. Open the city gate quickly, we have to hurry. Dong Huang glared and glared at the guard. Yes, yes, yes. The garrison commander seemed to be unaware of what happened in Luoyang. However, as a soldier approached him and whispered to him, his face suddenly changed, and he looked at the soldier in doubt. Are you sure? This is a letter from Huang Menlang, you can take a look. The soldier handed over a letter. The garrison commander opened it, seeing that there was indeed Huang Menlang's seal on it. He couldn't help but hesitate. Dong Huang was furious. Yang Ding, are you looking for death? Dare to let me, the commander of the Imperial Guards, wait for you? Are you tired of living? Being intimidated by Ding Ling, he was silent all the way, frightened by the wolf cavalry and the Bingzhou Legion that he looked down on. Now he came to the city where his own people were stationed, and he was treated so poorly.